I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, I'm speaking with author Ronald Higgins. Today, we are discussing his gripping novel. It is called Maggie, I Love You. The book follows Brent Stewart, a former military policeman turned wealthy private detective. He hits it big after winning the lottery, and Brent opens up a PI firm. Soon, his old comrade Alex requests help in finding his missing wife, Maggie. Brent's team confronts the dangerous Hong Kong mafia while unraveling Maggie's dark secrets. The story explores themes of ambition, power, and dedication. Join us right now as we delve into the world of Maggie, I Love You with Ronald Higgins. We're delighted to have Ron in the spotlight with us today. We thank the folks at Authors Reputation Press for helping us put him on the spotlight today, and ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Ronald, thank you so much for being our guest.
Yes, sir.
Let me
My
start out with the
pleasure.
big question. Do you like to be called Ron, Ronnie, Ronald? What do you
Ron
answer
is
to?
fine.
Ron is fine. Okay, sounds great. Love your book. You're obviously a big fan of murder mysteries and the hard-boiled detective, huh?
Yes, I am. He always gets his girl. Always solves the case.
Exactly. Usually they have a busted up life. They're kind of poor. They're fired from the police department and they're
Oh,
making their
yeah.
way back up. But this guy's got some money, right?
Oh, yeah. He doesn't have to depend on anybody. He was lucky enough or unlucky enough to work for an insurance company as vice president. Didn't like it, so he started taking lottery numbers and he won $1 million. So he figured while his luck was running good, he'll invest it in stock on the market. And he parlayed it into $10 million. So he decided to get out and open up his investigation agency and got his private eye license.
Wonderful,
In the
wonderful.
interim, he got his first case. Maggie, I love you.
What inspired you to write Maggie, I Love You anyway?
Well, I always wanted to win the lottery and I never won it. But I figured he has to get his money from somewhere.
Mhm.
And he doesn't necessarily have to be successful at private eye.
Right.
So the only other way to do it is to win the lottery. So I had him win the lottery and open up his own agency. Now, Maggie, I Love You was the third book. And the first one was Picture Them Dead. And that tells how he became a detective from an insurance investigator.
Gotcha. So this
But
is a part of a series?
no, well, Picture Them Dead is number one. And the continuation to that is number two, which is The Lady in the Movies.
Gotcha.
At the end of Picture Them Dead, he's going back to New York to close his office up and move out to California. At the beginning of the second book, the Lady in the Movie, he gets his first case out in Hollywood. And so that's where it begins there for him. But that's a different private eye. I think I have three different private eyes now.
Gotcha, gotcha. Sounds
But
great.
this one is Brent Stewart, and he spent time in Vietnam and had a buddy over there named Alex. And he got back to the States a couple of years before Alex. And when he got back and he got his money and everything, opened up the agency, and he gets a phone call from his buddy, Alex. And Alex says, "You remember Maggie?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I remember when the commander gave you a hard time about bringing her over because she was Asian. At that time in 1959, they weren't accepted here too often
Mhm.
because of the war with Vietnam and also with World War II. We
Yeah.
haven't gotten over from forgiving them for Pearl Harbor. Anyway, he brings her in and he tells me he's calling because she's missing. And he wants to help his buddy. So he goes over there to see him and he's turned into a drunk. And the story goes on from there. And I'd rather not say any more about it. Just let the people read it and enjoy it.
Exactly, exactly. Well, it's a great premise. It's a great setup. Is this somehow based on your life at all? Were you in Vietnam? Were you part of the
I was in
MP?
the service for 8 years,
Mhm.
and I was in the Air Force. And I got stationed in Japan straight out of high school. I was 18 years old and I
Wow.
was stationed in Japan. At that time, I might tell you also that gas was 10 cents a gallon over there.
A little
So
more
easy
affordable than
ride.
today.
I bought a 1949 Ford convertible, $75.
Amazing.
You couldn't
Amazing.
get one then. Now for that, that's for sure. But that's
18.
where I got the idea for the Asian.
Gotcha.
And I figured the thing that would give it a better background is not a vacation for 2 years like I had in Japan, but more like the war in Vietnam. And so that's
Right.
why that era instead.
What year were you stationed in Japan?
1959 to 1961.
Okay. So right before the start of the Vietnam War.
Where was I before the start
No, I
of it?
said that's right before the start of the Vietnam War, right?
Yes, but
Yeah.
I'm considered a Vietnam vet, but I
Mhm.
don't wear anything that says Vietnam on it because the men that died and fought over
Mhm.
there, they deserve to wear it. I don't.
Exactly.
So
Gotcha.
I'm proud to wear just the emblem of the United States Air Force. And I have clothes that have that on there, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have the old slogan that they had back in the 20s, and that is, if you don't like it, you can leave it. You know,
I think I heard
but
my dad say that once or twice, like it or leave it, or like it or lump it, one of the two.
yeah, I mean, you have to make the best of everything. Like
Exactly.
people that get stationed up there in the ice in Alaska. They
Yeah.
didn't ask to be stationed up there, but they know they're going to be there for 18 months at least. So
Hmm.
you have to adapt to it. You know,
Absolutely.
be
Have
grown
you
up about it.
have you visualized this book becoming a movie at all?
No, I hadn't, but when it was suggested to my publisher, I was very happy about it.
Hmm.
And so that's why we're doing this, and I'm doing a few other things. And I'm also writing my autobiography and my sixth book.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So, but there's
Now,
one downfall for that whole thing. I'm going blind.
oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have I have what they call AMD, adult-related macular degeneration.
Hmm.
And that's where you get a dot in both eyes, and then the dot grows from the pupil to the sides, and you're blind. There's no
Hmm.
cure for it. I get a needle every 6 weeks in the
Hmm.
eye.
Oh,
First the left, then the right. It's okay. You get used to it after a while. You can get used to anything. So now
yeah.
it's still hard for me to see what I'm writing. So I put it on my large screen. I got a 60-inch screen here, and I put it on there, and I have
Hmm.
Microsoft Word, and I just put it over there, and I can see the nice big letters, and I type it away. Nothing
Sounds good.
stops me when I want to do something. I
Yeah.
found that out in my life.
Yeah. Well, I feel your pain with your eyes because I had a retinal detachment in my left
Ooh.
eye, and they had to do what they call a vitrectomy, where they take the jelly out of your eye and replace it with
Oh, no.
saline, and then they wrap it with a rubber band, and it's crazy. I still don't see well out of the eye, but
That
nobody
must have been
notices.
fun. Did you use it as a slingshot?
Exactly. Shot pigeons with my eyeball.
Wow,
Exactly.
that's terrible. Now I
Yeah.
feel fortunate. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, when they're messing with your eyes, it's like it's real
You
pain.
don't realize anything about your body until something happens to it. That's
Exactly.
the truth. And a young guy can't tell you that
Yeah,
because he never even thinks about it. And that's
exactly.
another thing. If it makes me feel old, I go, oh, geez, I can understand that now. Oh.
Yeah, that and when the doctors are younger than you, that makes you feel old,
But
right?
I told him, I said, hey, doc, maybe they'll invent an artificial eye implant before I die. You
You
never
never
know.
know.
And he says, yeah, that's right. You never know. It's around the corner. But then
Yeah.
I researched cancer. Do you know the first recording of cancer was 200 years BC?
Wow.
That means cancer has been around since 2323. No,
Right.
yeah, 2323. Is
Right.
that right? I don't know. Anyway, it's been there for over 2,000 years, and they
Right.
haven't found a cure for it yet. So we're all hanging in there.
I know. I
We
know.
do
We
the
are all
best with
hanging
what
in
we
there.
got, and that's good.
Yep. So
But I
tell me
wake
a
up
little bit
and
about
smile.
the autobiography you're writing.
What is it?
No, yeah, I know what an autobiography is. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your life story
Oh,
that you're writing.
well, I'm writing from the time I was born. My mother died of sugar diabetes at 32.
Hmm.
And so I was 9 years old. I don't remember much of her. I was 8, actually. My sister was 9. And then my dad remarried, and we lived in Brooklyn. I was born down here in Johnson City,
Hmm.
Tennessee, and my sister was born in New York City. But my dad was born in Tennessee.
Mm.
So I decided to come down here and live. But we moved up to New York when I was 2 because Pearl Harbor hit, and my dad owned a gas station in Bristol, Tennessee, and he lost all his gasoline. It went to the war effort. So he sold the gas station, came up to New York, and became a diesel engineer on a tugboat and
Mm.
worked 30 years hard in New York City. And I lived in Brooklyn, and I was raised in Brooklyn and stayed there till I was 18 years old, and I joined the service. And when I got out of the service, I wanted to become an actor. So
Mm.
the last 2 years I was in the service, I was stationed in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I went down to the community theater, and I was sitting there, and guy comes running into my room, and he said, Ron, he said, you got to go on stage, do a play at Shreveport. They got auditions. I said, what? Me up on a stage? I said, you got to be kidding. I can't do that. He goes, Ron, you don't understand. He says, they got women in plays, and you have to kiss them if the script calls for it, and they can't say no. I thought for a second. I said, where do I get my jacket? I went and got my jacket. But it was fun. And the first year, I got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy, and I won it. Then the
Nice.
second year, I got nominated again, and I didn't get it, but I did get my own TV show for about 6 months. It was a children's show on Saturday morning. Of
Mm.
course, I joined SAG and AFTRA, and I didn't join the equity because I didn't have to.
Mhm.
And so I was a member of SAG and AFTRA right there, and that was a big hump.
Mm.
Well, when I got out of the service in 1967, I went to New York, and I went to college because my dad always wanted me to go to college. It's never too late. So I went to college, and the government paid for it. Then I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York.
Mhm.
That's the most prestigious acting school in the country. I went there and graduated. I did 3 movies in New York, one with Sophia Loren, and she was a darling. I
Mm.
got to study my lines in her dressing room and chat with her.
Wow.
I was engaged at the time to an Italian woman that owned an Italian restaurant. And I told Miss Loren that, and she said, tell me, son, are you marrying her because you like Italian food, or are you marrying her because she's Italian? I said, well, if I was to be honest, it'd be a little bit of both. He
That's
says,
awesome.
he says, you're very diplomatic, aren't you? And I said, yeah. Anyway, I did a play. I did another movie with The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight with Jerry Orbach.
Mhm.
And then I did one called Portnoy's Complaint, was just a walk on. I did a stunt in the Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. And
Mm.
I thought, shoot, I'm doing so good. I want to go out to Hollywood. Well, my wife didn't want to go out to Hollywood, so it ended in a divorce. And I went out to Hollywood, got out there. My very first day out there, I got nominated. I got an audition for Happy Days.
Wow.
I said, "Oh man, I want to go on that show." I got it. Okay, so I went and auditioned at Paramount. They loved it. They loved my performance and the audition, and they said, "Do you have an agent?" And I
Mm.
said, "No." I said, "You didn't need an agent in New York. You could work without one."
Right.
And they said, "Well, you need one out here." And so I lost the part.
Mm.
So I started going around looking for an agent, and they're all telling me, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're not taking unknowns on now."
I know.
And I said, "Unknowns?" I said, "I did 60 plays back east. I did movies in New York. I did a soap opera in New York. I did commercial. What do you mean unknown?" He
Mm.
says, "You're unknown out here, son, and that makes you unknown." That's like nothing I did back east counts at all. I was furious. So I went around knocking on doors for about 4 years and working jobs here and there. I was never without a job.
Mm.
End of 4 years, I said, I've had it. I went to this one place and knocked on the door, and the guy had it locked. And I thought it was open. And I turned the door, banged my nose into the door. And he says, "Yes, can I help you, son?" And I said, yes. I said, I'd like to talk to you about getting an agent. He goes, well, slide your picture under the door with your resume, and if we need you, we'll call you. I went home thinking, this is crazy. I'm not breaking my butt for this.
Yeah.
I said, I worked for 17 years doing my due diligence and paying my dues and trying to get into the movies. And this is the result. And I did some stand-up comic, but I gave that up because you have to do everything short of pulling down your pants to get a laugh. I mean, I told a joke and everybody in the place laughed except this lady in the front row, and she'd been drinking. So I said, hold it, ladies. There's a customer here in the front row that's asleep. I want to tell her the joke again. So I walked around down on the stage right next to her table, told her the joke again. She didn't laugh again with the mic. And I said, that's all right. Have a couple of more drinks and see my second show. When I turned and walked back on stage, you know? I mean,
That's funny.
I said, that's it. I said, you really got to have confidence to be a stand-up comic.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love doing comedy plays, but I never went back to plays again. And when I got home, it lasted maybe a week. And my creative mind started going to work on me. Well, why don't you write, Ron? I said, write. I never wrote before in my life.
Mm.
He said, that doesn't mean you can't. I said, well, that's true. All right, I'll try it. It took me a year to write the book.
Mm.
And I wrote Picture Them Dead. Then it cost me $10,000 to publish it.
Mm.
10,000. This is how naive I was. I was thinking, okay, this is a bar of soap. I just invented it. All I got to do is go around and let the publishers or the people that deal with it buy it from me, and I get all the rights. That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
You have to pay them to publish your book.
Right.
And if you pay a publisher, you can pay anywhere from 10,000 down to 3,000, down to 900, whatever, whoever your publisher is. But they didn't sell any books in a year. And I got no royalties from it. And then I went to the other company for $3,000 for my second book. That didn't sell. Well, it sold, but I wasn't getting royalty from it. So I go to Amazon. I've been with Amazon 40 years.
Mm.
They never told me from day one that I had to sign a special tax form in order to get the royalty.
Mm.
I signed the form to upload the story. So I had all my books on Amazon, but I wasn't collecting any royalty from it. Got no royalty checks, a quarter for 40 years.
Wow.
About a month ago, I met a woman up at the mall, and I told her about it. And she goes, oh, yeah. She goes, I got a book on there, too. She says, you have to fill out another form that says that you're a creative writer and claim the tax. I said, well, why didn't they tell me that when I did it?
Right.
And so now I don't know whether I can go back there and get 40 years of all my books or not.
Amazing.
I'll see a lawyer about to find out. I don't know. But then I found this beautiful company I'm with now.
Great.
And I'm 80, my mind slipped. What is it? Authors Representational Press.
Right.
They are a great company.
Right.
I enjoy them. If anybody wants to get started, that's where they should go. They're up in Maine, and I'm down here in Tennessee, but I mail them all my books in an email, and they publish it, and they publish it the way I like to. They put large print so that people can read it, like myself, and elderly people can read it. I bought a book that says Looking for Literary Agents, and I bought it off of Amazon, sight unseen. It was on the computer. When I got it, I couldn't read it. The fonts were only like 8 or 12.
Right.
8 or 12 fonts. I couldn't read it. I had a magnifying glass on trying to read it. And like I said, because of my bad eyes. And I never wore glasses before I was 45. But that's it. I like the writing and I enjoy the writing, and I'm hoping it goes well.
I'm hoping it goes well too. Maggie, I Love You is a sensational book. The story of
Oh,
your
you
life.
liked it?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the genre of the hard-boiled detective. So this was right up my alley. And it was quite a terrific ride. So it is highly recommended. You said you have a sixth book you're working on. What's
Yes,
this
the
next
latest
book?
book I have out now is The Boat Detective. And I'm
Okay.
writing one now that I don't have a title for it, so I just call it working title.
Mm,
And basically, it's got a crazy ending that I don't know whether people will like it or not. But I figure I can write it, and if they want, they can read it. It's going to be a great story,
mm.
but I don't know how they're going to feel about the ending. But I thought it up in my head, and when I think it up in my head, I put it down on paper. And I'm not a writer of X-rated words.
Hmm.
There's enough of them out there. We don't have to add it and tell it to our children.
Right.
So I try to keep it GP. Some things it's a little risque, but I don't consider them risque so much as adult related.
Right.
And if you're adult, you'll understand it. You know, they're normal words that we use in every day, but they're not accepted necessarily in a lot of different areas. But it's not it's a good book. I have my nieces read it, all of them, all five of them. They read it, all four of them, and one nephew.
Okay. Well, that's
And
awesome. They're great people to have read. You have somebody close in your family who can take a look at it and read it and give you some feedback. That's always helpful. The name of this book that we're talking about today is Maggie, I Love You. It is about a hard-boiled detective by the name of Brent, who is a millionaire after winning the lottery. And he lives his life as he pleases, as he goes and helps find the wife who is missing, a wife of a friend. It is written by Ronald Higgins. It is highly recommended. And Ron, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I
Oh, the
enjoyed it.
pleasure is all mine. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.